Good early morning, everybody. This is Pamela getting on here to give you an update on what's happening with me and to talk about the latest news of the week. Um, Over the last couple of weeks, I've been pretty busy around here. My home is being partially redone due to a flood that my family has suffered here over 2 months ago, and they finally got the walls almost completely done. They got the wood paneling back up and they got all the insulation and stuff replaced. Now they're going to start mudding the walls and get them ready for paint. So, yeah, I had to tear out a lot of stuff when my house got flooded a couple months ago. So, yeah. But I'm still alive. I'm still kicking. I just don't have much time for YouTube much anymore. And maybe it's best that I don't have much time on YouTube anymore. I don't think I'm doing anybody much good, but I don't do the videos for you. I do it because I know it's the right thing to do. And besides, I've had my own shit to worry about here lately, especially when my brother took a high fly down the stairs, broke a rib, and broke a couple of his vertebrae in his back. He's slowly getting better. He's back to walking around like he would. In fact, he went on a trip to Missouri to kind of get away from things for a while and try to relax because he's done too much too fast and it got him into trouble and he fell and now he has a couple broken vertebrae in his back. And all because he went and got steaks from my sister because she gets a cow every couple of months to get steaks, hamburger, ground meat, you name it. And she gave some to my brother John, and he wasn't paying attention as he was going down the basement steps. He slipped and he fell. And by the next day, he was in the emergency room with a broken rib clean through and 2 or 3 broken vertebrae in his back. So, yeah, you want to talk about sitting here scared? So, anytime he goes anywhere, I always have him call me to let him know that he made it wherever he was going to be. So, this morning he is in Missouri visiting his boss's, visiting his wife's boss's family. They're going to have an early Thanksgiving out there. Then they're going to go to a ball game tomorrow. But he went from here straight up to New York and then out to Missouri because it was the cheapest flight. Let's just say on the day that he fell down those stairs, my mom's car, the one that she bought before my dad died, decided to, in his words, take a crap. They took it to an automobile repair shop, and that was going to cost him $5,000. Then he had this fall, and that's going to be another $5,000. So that's $10,000 worth of debt he has accumulated. And because he doesn't have a regular steady job, he doesn't have any medical insurance. So, yeah, he says, I'm going to be broke. So I'm going to try and help him out. So whether he likes it or not, he's going to start getting some money from me to help cover his bills. But I'm doing the best I can here over the last couple of weeks. It's just going to take some time. Now we're going to get on to the meat of this. I heard the other day that Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted of murder. Again, another miscarriage of the justice system. Because he had a high-powered weapon designed for war. He killed 2 protesters and injured 3rd badly. A lot of these gun-toting nuts that applaud the Second Amendment are glad that Rittenhouse had gotten off. And Trump Jr. says that if they had voted Republican, they wouldn't have these problems. Bullshit. Bullshit. I don't trust anything a Trump would ever have to say to me. A white guy got away with murder. And I'm saying, if it was a black man that did the same thing, walked down to a protest, and then he opened fire on a bunch of people, killing two and injuring a third, that guy would be up under jail. And I think a terrible miscarriage of justice had happened. And like one person said in an article I read early this morning on my other channel, black people are persecuted a lot more than white people are. And the woman said it is white supremacy at work. A white guy backing up another white guy and letting the white guy get away scot-free while a black man ends up persecuted and or murdered at the hands of another. Let's think back to the George Floyd case. There were people still wanting that guy out of jail. The guy that killed him. There are still people wanting that police officer back out on the streets. Now, I'd say lock that fucker up. Again, it's a direct assault on our judicial system. They dropped so many charges. I would like to have seen a good trial, a good honest trial. And I had a feeling that Rittenhouse was going to get off. When they start dropping charges, that's a stepping stone to getting off scot-free, case closed. But I hope that the people that are angry will never let Rittenhouse live it down. He still killed two people. And why he's not being charged or locked up for a certain amount of time, that's just a big mind fuck. But he'll pay. If he doesn't pay in this life, he'll certainly pay in the other. Just like so many people want to hang Alec Baldwin for the Rush shooting. Come on. They're all wanting to charge him, but he's just an actor. He's not a guns expert. He is not a handler of prop weapons. I think it's pretty sad. And then let's finish this up with the Astroworld commentary. I'm sure you heard that by now over 10 people died when a mad crash happened. People were trying to bum rush the stage and it killed 10 people, among them a little boy whose father took him to a concert as he wanted to see his favorite rapper on stage. And the scary thing was, I think they were up toward the back of the venue. So really no place was safe. But you cannot solely blame the performers for what happened. You have to look at the people who organize it, the people who set it up, the policemen who are hired out to keep the fans in check, as it were. I mean, it's just a sad, sad state of things, people have died at Rolling Stones concerts. People died at a David Cassidy concert. One young girl named Bernadette, who was 14 at the time in 1974. She got crushed in the melee and was on life support for 2 or 3 days, and then she just gave it up. And the people over there in the UK tried to put the blame solely on her. But it really is, it's really not, it's really a big complicated thing. And let me read some of the things here. Let's see here. They were trying to blame her for what happened. And partially, you got people that are that are their hormones are racing and everything, and things get crazy. You get people that drink at these concerts nowadays. And it says here, let's see here. In this article on Goldmine, which I'll put in the sidebar for you. Um, let's see, I'll share the article with Goldmine so you guys could compare. I know a 1970s singing idol might not mean much, but it does show you that people can die at any type of venue, whether it's a hard rock concert like the Stones or a family entertainment type deal with David Cassidy. Let's see what they're saying about Bernadette here. If I can get back here. But, they were trying to put the blame over on her. But it says here, the blame game had already started. Let's see. The blame game had already started before that, and of course it would become even more circus-like afterwards. From the promoter, Mel Bush office came out with the claim that the majority of supposedly injured fans were faking it, and that they assumed the stretcher bearers would take them backstage where they might catch a glimpse of their hero and recover the moment they realized that they were going the opposite way. So, in other words, in the David Cassidy case, there were some people that said that people were faking their injuries, but I've seen footage of that particular concert where he was telling people to get back. They're going to cancel the show. Calm down, cool it. And they tried to use their injuries. They were trying to play up the fact that they may have faked their injuries. I don't think so. And they said even more cruel in the article here. It was suggested that Bernadette was suffering from a congenital heart defect and could have died anywhere. The fact that her heart decided to give out when she was lying on the floor, crushed beneath several hundred other young girls, was pure coincidence. The coroner swiftly put paid to that line and thought, unequivocally, the cause of her death was traumatic asphyxiation, as she was literally crushed to the point where she could no longer breathe. So, yeah, that's exactly what happened to some of these people at the concert at Astroworld, really. Because you get people that get overexcited. They get this rush of adrenaline. They think they could rush the stage and think that they're not going to hurt or kill anyone. But sadly, that happened. And because of that, what happened at Astroworld, 10 people died. And again, with Bernadette's situation, she was a 14-year-old girl in the UK that went to a concert to see a guy that she enjoyed the music, had his posters up on the wall, had magazines and records and all that shit. But she was trampled to the point where she could no longer breathe, and the coroner went further than that. He says it was also the factors that led up to it. He noted that the trendy, high-platform shoes that many of the injured had been wearing, and suggested that many of them who fell were literally toppled off their heels and taking a well-aimed pot shot at the entire teeny bop phenomenon. He described Bernadette as a victim of contrived hysteria. But David never went to Bernadette's funeral for obvious reasons. But he did send flowers to family and contacted them by mail. And they didn't want to blame David because he's not the only one responsible, But they said, her parents said Bernadette would not have liked us to blame him. But something or somebody had to be held culpable. But there were a lot of factors at fault when that happened. And just like what happened in 1974, there was a lot of factors at fault for what happened at Astroworld. And I heard, or I read in this article, that there were no changes to safety protocols. Even in 1974, there was no changes in safety protocols. Just like what happened out there in Vegas at the Route 91 festival, where people died at the hands of guns. There were no safety protocols after that. So, yeah. And I think they said the venue where Bernadette had been crashed had been torn down in the 1980s and was never, the place was never used again as a venue. Let me see if I can find that here. Let's see here. Let's see here. Not long after that, he was wanting to cancel the next show that was a few days away from the night that Bernadette died. But, the powers that be said, well, go on with the other show, but blah, 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 blah. So, let's see here. They were talking about other incidents at stadiums that maybe finally made the change years later. And it talks in the same article about Bernadette. It says it took 96 fatalities at the Hillsborough Soccer Stadium disaster in 1989 to finally convince the authorities to stop treating crowds like cattle, and even began to acknowledge the lessons they could have learned so many years beforehand. Until then, the go-round of guilt kept on spinning, because that is the other thing about a nice, juicy scandal. If you don't want people to ask the right questions, just make them look in the wrong direction. Yeah. But I think the place got torn down in the early to mid 80s. And the fact that Bernadette died at the hands of over rowdy teenagers and suffocated her to death. I mean, that's just heartbreaking. And then you hear about things like Astroworld that have happened. I think it is just a shame that a young boy and 9 other people died because people got overexcited and they thought they could bum rush the stage. And now they're wanting to hang the performers that were on that stage that night for what happened. And they even talked to 3 young women that said they would never go to another one of this guy's concerts. I think it's just pretty pathetic, and I think they need to up their standards in terms of security. But, I'm just saying, Travis Scott was not the first person to have people die at a concert. Rolling Stones had people die at their concerts. And you could go on and you could look at all the stories on Astroworld. Just type it in your search box. And they said Travis Scott, a guy named Drake, and more hit with a $2 billion Astroworld lawsuit because they're trying to sue the people that may be responsible for this for big damages. And it's sad, but you just can't punish the singers who take the stage. You have to look at all facets: the security, the venue, their safety protocols. Again, there's a lax in all areas as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. One person says on Yahoo Entertainment, I'm sure you remember a guy named Chuck D. You know, a guy named Chuck D wrote an open letter here. Chuck D pens open letter following Astroworld tragedy. Stop letting one young black man take the blame. So, yeah. Let's see here. It says, the Post. Chuck D pens open letter following Astroworld tragedy. Stop letting one young black man take the blame. Appeared first on Consequence. See, it's highlighted here. Let's take a look here. And you could click on the link for that. But they're trying to pin this tragedy on one black man. And it says, in the wake of the recent tragedy at Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival, Chuck D has issued an open letter to Live Nation, demanding they take accountability for the incident and accusing them of redirecting the blame onto Scott. Let's see. I'm tired of these corporations shucking the most crucial responsibility, Chuck D wrote. I'm not buying the young black man did it. He's being blamed for a crime while the old white men running the corpse that Travis and his fans trusted with their lives stay quiet in the shadows. So in other words, he's wanting the media and whoever else is responsible to stop blaming solely the black man, because he is being blamed for a crime while the old white men running the corpse that Travis and his fans trusted with their lives stay quiet in the shadows. The excuse of Scott's irresponsible actions didn't wash. The Public Enemy founding member continued. If this act has a history of that behavior, why promote him to bigger venues? Why partner with him in the first place? And then have him headline a bigger audience? Live Nation controlled the show. Chuck D would go on to describe how artists have hesitated to speak out against Live Nations and their negligence for fear of being blacklisted, and accusing them of profiting off black pain, trauma, and death. Read the full letter below. As a refresher, on the first night of Houston's Astroworld on November 5th, a large crowd of attendees stormed the stage. Disturbing videos of the event show fans being lifted out of the crowd, knocked out, while pleas for help were often overlooked. 10 people died, and lawsuits are seeking hundreds of millions of dollars from Scott, Live Nation, and others. Scott, who has previously come under fire for inciting reckless behavior at his shows, issued an apology on social media, writing, Houston PD has my total support as they continue to look into the tragic loss of life. I'm committed to working together with the Houston community to heal and support those families in need. So let's go down here before I read that letter. Nope, that's it. Let's see. If I could read this, Chuck D penned an open letter. And he says, I cannot believe we're at the point where I've got to say this out loud. Travis Scott is a performer, an act, not a concert promoter. He doesn't run the sound or venues or festivals or their staff. He doesn't build the stages or coordinate logistics. He's not an expert in crowd control or security or emergency medical services. But he does trust Live Nation and all their concert promoters. which are supposed to do all of this. And yet here we are, 10 deaths and counting, 10 broken families. The world is mourning. I'm tired of all these corporations shucking their moral and crucial responsibility. These folks simply say, rest in peace and move on. The negligence cannot continue. Folks want answers. I'm not buying the young black man did it. He's being blamed for a crime while the old white men running the corpse that Travis and his fans trusted with their fans stay quiet in the shadows, counting their money and watching their stocks prices go up and up. The excuse of Scott's irresponsible actions don't wash. If his act had a history of that behavior, why promote him to bigger venues? Why partner with him in the first place? And why let him headline bigger audiences? Live Nation controlled the show. They control almost all the concert venues. Artists ain't speaking because they have some cats that have already bought by these corporations. No one can say a word against them unless they want to be blacklisted and hurt their careers. So I'm calling on Michael Rapinoe's entire team at Live Nation and a consortium of all the major concert promoters out there to do the right thing, to step up and step out of the shadows and fix these situations and save lives, to stop letting one young black man take the blame, the hate, the fall. We don't know everything that happened exactly. What failed? The concert promoters have all the power to make the changes to keep everyone safe and alive. Live Nation, your stock is up. The white corporate music biz keeps cashing in on black pain, trauma, and death. This has to stop yesterday. You're a part of the problem. Grow the fuck up, fix this, and let us all live in peace. So that's the most frank letter I have ever heard from anyone. Chuck D, huh? Wow. That is crazy. So yeah. So you could click on that letter if you want. But yeah, let's see here. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's go back here. Take a look here. And I'll share the letter with you here in a minute. Yeah. And I'll share the thing with consequence. So, yeah. Just letting you know, you cannot pin it on one person. And like I read in another article on my other channel that people have died at concerts. People have died at Stones concerts. People have died at David Cassidy's concert in 1974 with a young girl named Bernadette, which I've already talked about. Even fans have killed a fan killed Dimebag Darrell at the Alrosa Villa in Columbus. There was another girl, Grimmy, I think was her name, that was murdered. Christina Grimmy, that was murdered. And the Route 91 festival, where a nut job had opened fire from the Mandalay Bay and ended up killing a bunch of fans. And they never did find out why on that assumption. But you cannot blame one person for what happened at a concert, whether he's black, whether he's white. And these fat cats need to get up off their ass and hold people accountable. Whether it's security, whether it's the venue, we don't know. But it shouldn't have happened. And 10 people died at Astroworld because of that. Neolithic incompetence. And if he was such a bad, if this Travis Scott fellow was such a bad person, inciting people to get wild and get violent, why promote him to bigger venues? Why allow him to host such a thing as Astroworld Festival? Huh? Tell me that. And because of that, 10 people are dead. In other words, Chuck D is saying, grow up and own up to your responsibilities as a promoter. And the venue needs to grow the fuck up and own up to their responsibilities, not just to Live Nation, but to the people they serve. But look down below. If you want to see the story about David Cassidy, his career, they make a mention about Bernadette in that A&E documentary. But you could read all the articles at the side here about some of the things that I've talked about. And if you have any commentaries or questions, leave them below, and I'll get back here toward the end of the week. I know by Monday, the workers will be back in my house working more on my basement walls, getting them ready to be painted and put back to normal. So, yeah. But again, you cannot blame a black man for what happened when a crowd becomes unruly and decides to storm the stage. Again, it's like what happened with Bernadette. People were crying out for help, and some calls for help went unignored. That poor girl wound up unconscious and dead within a matter of days in 1974. And it stinks. It really stinks. And after Astroworld, there was a lot of young people that died, and the youngest was a 8 or 9-year-old kid that was going to see his favorite rapper live on stage. And his father said he had his little boy up on his shoulders, and sometime during the rush, he got knocked down, and I think he got stumped on, just like Bernadette, and he didn't live. But again, Chuck D says, stop blaming the black man. You got to look at all facets of what happened, whether it's the venue, whether it's the security, whether it's the general setup. Somebody's got to be held to account. It's not just the artists. So, yeah. I'm going over. If Chuck D has a Twitter, I'm going to stand with him. I'm going to stand with him. And he's right. Places like, people like Live Nation and whoever else is responsible for that, they need to grow the fuck up and own their mistakes. You just can't blame it on a sole black man. So think about it. Again, people have died at other concerts. Rolling Stones got deaths at their concert some years back. Then somebody died at a David Cassidy concert. Then you have the nut jobs who bring guns to concerts and kill a singer during a meet and greet. Then you have a nut job that goes to a hotel, the Mandalay Bay, and opens fire on an open air concert in Vegas a few years ago. They never did figure out this asshole's MO for why he did what he did. And there's a lot of secrecy going on between that and Mandalay Bay and the security guy that was supposedly outside the room and getting shot. That's a giant clusterfuck in itself. So people need to grow the fuck up and own for their mistakes, especially in the case of Astroworld and in the case of what happened at Mandalay Bay also. David Cassidy didn't really recover from a lot of things that happened in his life, whether it was the death of his mother or the death of his father or the death of that teenager. He drank himself to death, and his body finally gave it up. Again, people didn't hold up their responsibilities, and yet people like David Cassidy took it upon himself, and he couldn't live with the guilt. So the only way he could numb his guilt was to get plastered and drunk. And he did have alcohol-related dementia. But when he finally went to the hospital toward the end of his last session, he told the person that was doing the film that he had lied about having dementia. He knew what day it was, and he talked like he used to talk when he was young, not slurred speech. He sounded good, but then his body just gave it up. So you cannot put the blame on one black man. It's just like there are a lot of people that probably blame the Stones for what happened to their family. Or there are people out there that blame David Cassidy for what happened to their family members. You can't just put it on the singer. You have to look at all facets of everything, the setup, the venue. You have to get security that knows what the hell they're doing. And because of what happened at Astroworld, 10 people are dead. Think about that. Was it worth bum rushing the stage to kill 10 people? I don't think so. The people who did that should be arrested, they should be charged, and they should live with that guilt of, my God, my stepping on somebody actually killed somebody. There you go. Well, I'm going to get off for the day, enjoy the rest of my weekend before Monday gets here because it'll get busy again. I want you guys to have a good week, and if I don't get on before Thanksgiving, safe travels, enjoy time with family, eat a lot of turkey, and just to enjoy yourselves. Because all the shit that I went through, I could use that break here next week. So take care of yourselves and each other. And if you can, go over and show support to Chuck D. If I find him on Twitter, I'll be sure to leave him a message. Have a good weekend, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.